Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Friday, December 15th, 2017, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Welcome to the program for your daily dose of happiness. And Tom, I woke up to 13 degrees Fahrenheit this morning here in Connecticut. How cold is it there in Boulder, Colorado?
You know, I think it's in the 20s. It's probably either the high 20s or low 30s. I actually didn't look, but it hasn't been as cold as it normally would be this time of year.
See, now this is all inverted. I mean, we're supposed to be warmer. You're supposed to be cooler. Obviously, the two aren't talking properly here.
Right. I don't know. There's some high pressure area over the Pacific. It's keeping all the cold air somewhere else, I guess.
I guess so. So anyway, you came up with a good topic today that actually is quite apropos for what's going on in my life. The topic of angst to ease, and that's certainly something that anyone who has ever tried to apply the law of attraction knows is important. It's what usually gets in the way if we're trying to do it and we're not doing it successfully. So talk a little bit about that. First of all, where did the idea come from, and let's get it started.
Yeah, you know, the idea came from the fact that for years and years of thinking of being I thought of being a therapist, psychotherapist for years, and then I decided to become a life coach about 7 years ago. And I really realized as I was studying and learning different methods of life coaching, the single biggest thing in my life that was driving me was the fact of how much I worry. And I was talking to another therapist friend yesterday and telling her how that's been this huge theme in my life. And she said, I think it's a theme in everybody's life.
Yeah.
And she's been a therapist for 40 years, and she said there's nothing bigger in anybody's life than anxiety and worry. You know, and it all is underlaid by fear, of course. You know, we're afraid of what's going to happen next or what's not going to happen in our lives. And so for me, I notice in my practice, it's the main thing even on my website that I really advertise or talk about to people is that I want to help you move from anxiety, worry, angst into ease and trust and allowing and flowing. And it's something I still deal with in my life every day, but now it's no longer so stressful. And now I have incredible tools to move beyond that angst and into that ease, and that's what we want to talk about today.
And that is really very important, of course, because we all know how destructive stress is to our health system, let alone to our attempts to apply the law of attraction. So anything we do to get rid of stress, replace it with, like you say, ease, is probably a pretty good thing.
Yeah, it's mandatory, I think, and at least it is for me, because, you know, if we're in a vibration of worry and the vibration of fear, then attract into our life the thing that we want, because the things that we want are not in that vibration.
Yes.
And, you know, what's so amazing is that we have the emotional guidance system, and that's sort of at the crux of this whole thing, is that why do we get the fear and the anxiety and the worry? And the simple fact that my understanding is that's simply our emotional guidance system telling us that what we want is not in that direction of our thinking. So when we're feeling that worry and that anxiety and fear, we're not in the place that's going to head us in the direction that we want to be going. We're actually thinking the opposite. Somehow we're thinking about things not working out for us instead of things working out. And we've got to begin to tell a different story, and that's what it really comes down to. We've got to notice that emotion is an indicator that we're in a place that's not serving us.
Well, I can attest to the fact that I'm noticing it.
Yeah.
The last couple of days, I thought I had my technical issues under control and that they were done, and nope, they're just sprouting right up again this morning, and so I realized, okay, I've been focusing far too much on issues and problems. I got to shift this mindset so these problems can stop being problems and just go away.
Right.
Because
what do you think you're going to do to shift that mindset? What things are working for you, or what do you plan to do for the coming day?
Well, actually, I started this morning by doing my usual routine, which is I listen to a sort of a rampage of positives from a workshop of Abraham Hicks. It runs about 9 minutes. So that helps me, shift my perspective. If nothing else, focus on something else for a few minutes. And as I was done with that, I just focused on the idea today that technical stuff is going to work. And I just tried to stay with that as much as I could. The interesting part is, as so often happens when we're under stress, I found I could only do it for like 3 or 4 seconds at a time, but I just pull myself back again, and then I go off to, I wonder if the reboot is working properly. Oh, nope, everything's going to be working out fine. And I go off to, that restore didn't work. No. Everything's going to work out fine. Constantly back and forth. So that's that tennis match they talk about, right?
Yeah. We've got to get into the place where we actually can feel what it would feel like when we get things the way we want it to be. And I think that's been the most difficult part for myself and my clients is how do they get into the vibration rather than just telling themselves in words what they want. Like I could say to myself, well, I'm going to make plenty of money. I'm going to have the house I want to have. Everything's going to work out fine. But if I don't feel that, I don't really believe it, I've got to somehow get into the feeling as if it's already happened. And I think that's where the law of attraction is a new learning for all of us. How do we get into that when in our guts we're feeling worried and we don't know how to move out of that sense of worry?
Especially when
there's a lot of things we can do.
When you're in that stress position too, that's when it's the hardest. It's easy to focus on it when you're not stressed, but when you're in the stress position, then it's like your attention just goes away. So what strategies do you use with your clients or with yourself when you're in that position?
The best thing to do that I find is what's called going general, and as you know, that means we actually ask ourselves, what is something that I love? What is something that I unequivocally like that I could go do right now or that I could think about that could make me completely away from this entire thing that I'm worried about? So if I'm really worried about money, say, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to happen and this could happen and I might not have enough money for that and this, and then I've got to just say, what would be fun for me right now just that would bring me joy? And maybe it's pick up my guitar. And I know that if I pick up my guitar and I start playing a few songs, I get into it at all. Before long, I can really be enjoying the singing. And that's going general. Sometimes if I'm sitting in my house and I'm saying, today, later, I've got to give a public speech, and, that's supposed to cause people more anxiety than death itself. And I realize that, I can, if I'm feeling worried about it, I can just get up and say, I'm going to go for a walk. And on that walk, I focus on the trees. I focus on the beauty that I see, the sky, the clouds, the sunshine. And I don't let myself keep thinking about giving the speech and how it maybe it's not going to go right. And if on the walk, then I start feeling relaxed, then I start thinking about, this speech can go really well. There's no reason why this won't go well. I feel like I'm prepared enough, and so that's one of the things is to go general. And
because going general actually puts you in a place where you stop focusing on the specific. The specific is where we keep beating ourselves up. And so by going general, you put yourself into a place, we put ourselves into places where we can focus on just things that are generally good and what are generally positive in our lives and so forth. And just that alone switches us away, even temporarily, from the stuff we've been fixated on.
Yeah, the bottom line for me is that I simply have to get into a different vibration.
Right.
I simply have to get into a vibration that feels good. And it doesn't matter what I do to get that good feeling. And I think when we're depressed, when a person's really consciously worried and anxious, then I can see how I've been in a place where it's hard to imagine anything. I can look around my whole house and not see anything that I think is going to make me feel better. And one thing I do at those times is, and I don't know how many of our listeners can relate to this, but I actually do two things. One is I just maybe lay down on the couch or on a bed or sit in a chair, and I let myself accept the fact that I feel this way. I say, okay, I'm not going to fight this. I feel really scared, or I feel really worried about this or this or this, and I'm going to just sit with this, and I'm going to feel it. Where do I feel it in my body? What's the sensation in my body? So I can get away from the story that I'm telling about it a little bit and just say, okay, well, in my stomach, I feel like it's twisted up. I feel like there's a knot in there, or I feel just like angry. There's anger in there, or I feel sad. There's sadness in there. But it's just to feel the body sensation. Maybe you feel in your shoulders, an aching. Maybe you've got a headache, and notice those feelings, and then just be with them for a little bit. And then what I do is I often will say, I can't handle this. I can't deal with this, so I'm going to give it to my higher self. I'm going to give it, if the larger part of me is an infinite being, and I really do believe that we are all infinite beings occupying these human bodies.
Yeah, I agree.
So this is some kind of game I'm playing. So I give it to that higher self. I give it to any beings that I believe exist in that unseen realm. I can ask for help. And according to Abraham Hicks, there's a multitude of beings that are focused entirely on us, that want us only to succeed. They want only for our lives to work out in beautiful ways. And when I'm at my rope's end, I just say, you guys take it. I cannot deal with this. And then I completely give it over. And I just say, okay, it's completely in your hands. I can't figure out how I'm going to make this better. You guys make it better. You guys take care of it. And I'll tell you, man, almost every time I can't even think of a time where I don't start seeing something happen. Something starts to change. Just the thing that changes alone is the fact that I no longer feel that angst. I start to feel relief. That's the key. We've got to somehow feel like life is on our side, that things can work out.
Right, it's the release.
Yeah.
It's the release that we're looking for.
Do you do the same thing?
Not quite the same way, but yeah, ultimately it amounts to the same thing. I look for the release. I look to try to have that moment, where boy, it's just coming off my shoulders. It's getting out of me. Thank goodness. That's the sound for that. And
do you have a place inside you that you kind of know is your go-to place for trusting that things are going to work out?
I can't say I think of a particular place. I mean, I know not concretely, consciously, I know that when I'm making that kind of request, I'm doing it, like you said, to my other half, my better half on the other side.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I'm aware of that. But when I'm actually doing it, I don't think of any particular being. I just kind of put it out there, like, I can't do this. Just fix this. Somebody fix this. I don't care who it is.
Okay.
Just somebody fix this. Because I can't do this anymore, and I'm done with that.
Your experience.
I think it does lead to almost immediate results. The immediate results may not be the complete fixing, but you can almost immediately see improvement happen within a very, very short period of time. Minutes. Something gets better. Something improves. And when you see that, you say, okay, I just made it a little bit better. Let's try it again. And I try to remember to repeat the pattern. Now, often I get distracted, and so I'll do it once, and I got some release, and now I'm off to doing some more stuff. So I'm back and doing mode, which isn't the best approach. But ideally, if I'm really on top of it, I release, I notice that there's an improvement, and then I go through the same cycle again. And release, release it to the world. Let somebody else take care of it. Let the other side take care of it. I don't care who. Let's take care of it. Breathe again. and look for more good things to happen. And if I can do that a few times, I can usually start, get the momentum going again in the right direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another one that I do and suggest for my clients is that we sit down in a chair and simply notice our breath going up and then going back down. And I was just constantly doing that, of course. And that is a wonderful place to put our attention. So you could be in the middle of the day. I mean, you could even be at work and find 2 minutes, of that. Hopefully you can close your eyes, and that makes it easier for me if I close my eyes. And I just notice that rise and fall of my breath. And a lot of times, of course, I work out in my home, so I can sit and do that for 15 minutes. And when I was going through the period of coming out of what I called my dark night of the soul, which was about 4 years ago, and I was struggling so much, I just decided that every day that I got into a place that I was stressed out, or even if I wasn't completely stressed out, I wanted to stay balanced so that I didn't get too much into worry and anxiety, I would stop. I'd say, I'm going to just sit down now. It's 12 noon, it's 1 o'clock, whatever time of the day, and I'm going to follow my breath for 5 or 10 minutes. And I swear that's a huge realignment process. Of course, if we do that in the morning when we get up, I do it every morning. I spend some time meditating, sometimes up to an hour, but sometimes just 10 or 15 minutes. That's a way to head off the worry before it has a chance to build momentum. And Abraham said the main thing to do with anything that bothers us is to stop the momentum before it has a chance to develop.
Sure. And
that's why you want to have a daily practice like that, of meditating, of perhaps reading affirmations, saying affirmations, writing down in a journal the things we appreciate about ourselves in the morning. Anything that will get us into the vibration of believing and feeling mainly, of course, that things are okay. Things are going to be okay. They're not only going to be okay, the life we want is unfolding the way we want it to unfold.
Not only is it going to be okay, it is okay. It's already okay.
Yeah. And coming to, I love writing in my appreciation journal because it really helps me see the things that are already working in my life. And Abraham said that that's what you got to start. If you want to be abundant, you've got to start thinking about what's already working.
Right.
And, it doesn't matter how much money we have in the bank and how many bills we have. It doesn't matter what kind of problem we have. Even if we're sick and we're feeling pretty bad, what is working? What is working in our lives? Last night I've been fighting sort of a cold, and I was laying there. I woke up about 4 a.m. and I'm laying thinking, gosh, I can't believe I have a cold. I don't ever get colds. It's so odd that I've got this going on. And then I was laying there realizing how well I was breathing. And I said, I've had colds in the past where my nose is completely congested. I have headaches. My ears are all stopped up. I've got earwax. And I said, I don't have any of that going on. The air is moving really smoothly. I said, I'm doing really good. And even though I was a second before was complaining that I had a cold, suddenly it was like, no, I'm doing really well. That's what we have to do with law of attraction. We've got to get into those places where we're able to say to ourselves, what is working and how it's working, and not have that just be words. Really, really feel our way into the fact that there are things that are really, really good that are taking place.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you do that?
Yeah, I do. And in fact, I want to actually do it right now that I think about it, because right now, technically, everything's working. It's working beautifully.
There you go.
With nice smooth signal. As far as I can see, there's nothing going on in terms of scratches or internet drops. I mean, it's just a nice, clean signal. I like this. I'm looking forward to hearing the replay where it's a nice, clean replay too. So this is good stuff.
Uh-huh.
Oh, by the way, I also want to remind our listeners, if you are liking what you're hearing, we want you to help us make it even nicer and smoother by sharing it. Tell other people you're listening to LOA Today, on your Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever you use for social media. Just put out a message saying, hey, I'm listening. You ought to listen to this. It's good stuff, because we want to keep spreading the word that there's a feel-good daily dose of happy program for everyone to share. And plus, if you haven't yet subscribed, take this moment to subscribe too, because we want you to be able to continue to get the programs every single day. We're doing them twice a day, Monday through Friday, and one on Sunday. So you don't want to miss any of them. So, a little commercial reminder there. You also mentioned earlier, Tom, the idea of breathing and how important it is to focus on breathing. And it made me remember that Abraham Hicks has a meditation recording that you can get. And it actually has 4 different meditations. There's one on sort of a general well-being one, one's on health, one's on money, and one's on relationships. Each one's about 15 minutes long. And what they tell you throughout meditation is breathe in, breathe out. In other words, they're reminding you to get a normal cycle going, so while you're listening to the meditation, you're also listening to your own breathing. And it occurred to me, there's a way to do it, and you don't even have to do the work yourself. They're doing the work for you. You're just following them.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Have you used it much?
Yeah, I use it a lot. Yeah. You know when I use it the most, believe it or not? I use it when I'm having trouble sleeping. I'll put that on and on my iPhone, and I'll either have headphones on or a speakerphone or something like that, so I'm not waking my wife up. And I'll play. I'll set it to play for like an hour to hear all 4 of them, and I'll get about 10 minutes into the first one, and boom, I'm out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There was a time, the time that I was talking about when I was in this really difficult time about 4 years ago. I discovered their CD and that meditation, getting into the vortex CD, and I would use it religiously every day, and I felt like it was a lifesaver. I mean, it was literally a lifeline for me to have that meditation, because not only is there the practice with the breath, but it's synced up with this really good music that they have been created specifically for getting into that place of relaxation, that place beyond anxiety and worry. And if you read the book and you listen to what Esther Hicks is saying, what Abraham is saying, it's fantastic stuff.
Oh, it is.
I sometimes just go read a whole chapter. In fact, that book just sitting around all the time. And if I want to read, about well-being, like my physical health, or I want to read about financial abundance, those little chapters in that book are fantastic.
It's amazing.
I highly recommend to all my clients that they get that.
It's amazing. We both did the same thing, because you described how you use that, particularly when you're in a rough place, and that's exactly when I used it too. I used it when I was in a place where I couldn't seem to get any daily thing going of, whether it be affirmations or meditation or whatever. None of it, I just, for whatever reason, I was blocking myself and I just couldn't get there. Listening to those meditations helped me develop a daily habit of some kind. And actually, there were times where I would listen to them multiple times in the day because I was feeling so miserable, and I just needed to. I wasn't even thinking in terms of getting myself into a good place. I just needed to get out of the bad place. I just needed to stop feeling so miserable and so rotten, and it helps. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's easier than meditating, because you don't have to focus on meditating. You just listen to the music and you listen to what they're saying. And you're right. I mean, the music is very calming. That's why it puts me to sleep now. But it also, when you're stressed out, it doesn't put you to sleep necessarily. It can, but more importantly, it does get you to slow down and relax. And the music is timed perfectly for breathing. So breathe in. Breathe out, and you're going right to the music as you're doing it. So, in fact, I find I've gotten to the point now where I can't hear the music without knowing where I am in the tune, and my breath has to catch up to it. So I'm right there.
Yeah. And, I've been with this teacher from India for 40 years, too, and one of the main things he teaches is all day long, I think I might have mentioned this in another show, but all day long you can be noticing your breath, and it's a wonderful way to bring you back to your center, to your heart, and to who you truly are, because within our breath, according to lots of teachers from India and other places, and now from all over the world, of course, that within our breath is where our essence essence lives. When we're first born, the first thing that comes into our body is our breath. When a baby's born, everybody's on pins and needles in the room waiting to see, will the baby breathe,
Yeah.
because that's the sign that everything's going to be okay. And then when they're at the deathbed of that person, of anybody, that the very last thing that they check for is, have they stopped breathing? Because when the breath leaves the body, it seems to be that's when the essence, the soul, whatever you want to call it, that's when the soul leaves. And so what I do throughout the day, and I recommend for my clients, is that you could be standing talking to somebody, and your mind might be worried, might be racing about something, or you might not like what the other person's saying, or you might want to be coming back with, some intelligent answer to that person. Whatever the reason, if I go to my breath instead of to the place where my mind is racing and my mind is fearful and my mind is anticipating, with anxiety what's going to come next, instead I just start to follow my breath at that time. So it's like a magic potion to me, because it'll bring resolution to so many situations. Like this morning, you were mentioning that you were going through this struggle a little bit to get your technical house in order so you could, do the podcast today. And one thing you can do in those types of situations when you're feeling that stress is do it as you're following your breath. Just say, I'm going to stop for a second here, and I'm going to get back in touch with my breath, and I'm going to quit listening to the worry I have about this thing not working, and I'm going to just trust. It's
Right.
the same as giving it over, you could say, to a higher power, too.
Yeah, actually, I think I do that anyway, because I very often sigh. I very often just, that kind of thing. And it's not like I'm doing it deliberately, but I think it's actually become part of my routine, which is good. It means I have a reliever that I didn't even realize I was using.
There's another thing that Abraham recommends that people can do when they're feeling anxiety and worry and fear, and that's that we talked about a little in the earlier part of the program. I talked about how that anxiety and worry and fear is simply your emotional guidance system telling you that you want something. It's telling you that what you're thinking about is not going to get you what you want, and that you're in your vortex, there's something that you want. And so when you get the emotional guidance system telling you, the message of worry, anxiety, or fear, a really good thing to ask ourselves at that moment is, well, what is it that I want? What is it that is missing here? I learned when I was really going through anxiety to use it as a signal to me to say, well, why would I be feeling this? What is it that I'm not giving what is it that I'm not listening to that I need to be listening to? And I would so often find there was something that I was ignoring, that I was doubting, that I wasn't really paying attention, that I really wanted instead of that worry and anxiety, the thoughts that were causing that, because it's some other thing I'm focused on that's giving me the worry and the anxiety. Like when you're trying to fix your technical situation, I imagine you're thinking, this could ruin the show today, or this could...
Well, actually, I'm trying to avoid thinking that. I'm trying to stay away from those thoughts. But yeah, those are the thoughts that tend to creep in. And I know that one thing I've really focused on a lot, I try to remember to focus on it during stress periods, the high stress periods, is you mentioned the vortex. The book The Vortex talks about how when you're feeling the negative emotion, what it really means more than anything else, I mean, yes, it means that you want something, that you need something, that you desire something, and it's not there yet, and all this other stuff. But more specifically, it means that you're not in alignment with your true self, your inner self. You're out of alignment. That's why you're feeling the negative emotion. When you're in alignment, you feel good. When you're out of alignment, you feel bad. So it's a reminder, you're just out of alignment. You got to get back in alignment somehow. And you use any of the techniques, any of the tools that you learned to do that. And the longer you put it off, the more you're going to feel miserable. So it's It's actually a nice reminder. Every time that I'm not feeling good, even if it seems like it's due to something else, if it's due, it seems like it's due to my computer. My computer isn't behaving properly. That's why I feel so miserable. No, I feel miserable because I'm out of alignment. So, okay, got to get back into alignment. Don't worry about what the computer is doing. The computer is going to be fine. The computer is going to take care of itself. Ultimately, yes, I have to do things to help it along, but something's going to come through in some way that I don't really expect. That's going to kind of shift the whole balance, and all of a sudden, like this morning, the computer was working. Like, oh, good, hooray! I'm right back in alignment again. All right.
Yeah, right. And I imagine that you spend a lot of time just trusting and knowing that your system is going to stay in alignment.
Yes.
Right.
And also trusting that what's going on outside is going to also realign now that I'm in alignment. And it's not always easy to trust that. I mean, sometimes I'm watching, like lately, of course, it's been computers, so watching a system restore or watching, a progress bar and wondering, is it going to work after the progress bar? Well, yes, because I'm getting myself back in alignment. I'm in a feel-good state. Yes, it's all going to work out. Everything's going to work out. Oh, good. Never go with the breath again.
Yeah, right. I worked with a shaman for 4 years who I learned and did a lot of classes and training with him, and he taught that, one thing we tend to remember as modern human beings don't tend to realize that everything in the external world is a living thing. That there's even our car, our computer, every single part of it came from the earth one way or the other, and that, he believes that everything in the earth is alive. And of course, quantum physics would essentially say the same thing, that it's all atoms, it's all molecules, it's all electrons and protons, and everything's moving constantly. It's always in a state of flux, and it really does have an intelligence. There, at least the way I look at it, everything, there is some kind of a consciousness, you might say, in those electrons and those protons, because they behave in very predictable and unpredictable ways, but they definitely have a life of their own. And if we align ourselves with sort of like a knowing that everything is malleable and everything is responding, like you say, to our own alignment. So if we put our vibration in alignment with what feels good to us, then, in a way, we're saying to everything around us that we're putting out that vibration. It's things where that's a prayer to ask everything to be aligned in our lives, is when we are aligning with our own vibration. Then I ask like the computer, to stay aligned. I ask my car to keep working in a way. I trust that it will. And I do that about everything. If I'm worried about the environment, I trust the earth. I trust the sun. I trust the moon.
That's good.
I feel like why be in the place of feeling like anything is working against us? Because it's only in my head. I had a teacher from India that I've been with for 40 years. He said all of our problems exist in about the 6 to 8 inches, however wide our head is. That's where all problems exist. It's only what we're creating that is the problem. There really is. Everything is malleable. Everything is constantly open to our own interpretation and what we're projecting and feeling. And that's where we have to make the changes. It's just inside of our own stuff.
I agree. Yeah. I do like to be sensitive to friends who are quantum physicists who don't buy into the whole law of attraction thing. They don't really say that the quantum physics will teach that. But I certainly agree that we who are followers of the law of attraction have learned from quantum physics that everything is vibration. Everything does have source energy flowing through it. In fact, I really believe, I agree with you that everything is alive. I go another step and say not only is it alive, but every piece of matter in existence is essentially source energy that has been thought into a form. So since that's the case, everything is source energy just manifesting in certain ways. And look at it that way, that means, like you say, any problem that's created is a problem we're creating. It's not something that's wrong with the source energy. The source energy is just source energy. It's just, essence. It's aliveness. So we're the ones doing the creating. And when we remember that we are the ones doing the creating, then it becomes easier to reconcile, well, when stuff goes wrong, it just means, oh, I need to slow down that creation process because I'm just not in the right path. I got to switch to a different path so I'm more in alignment with myself, and everything else will just take care of itself. And there's a trust factor in there. It takes some trust, but that trust factor, as we build it through the meditation practices, through affirmations, the daily routines that we do, and that practice over time trains us as well. We start to believe, we start to feel good, we start to feel confident that all those practices are going to help us whenever we do run into some sort of conflict, some sort of problem. Those practices allow us and encourage us to help us get through it without thinking, oh my God, this is the end of the world. The end of the world as we know it.
Yeah, right.
Because that's really what we're doing, isn't it?
That's what?
That's really what we're doing, isn't it? We're treating it like, oh my God, this is the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I'm in worry and anxiety and fear, at those moments, if I look at the thoughts I'm having, they're crazy in a sense, because let's say I'm worried about money and I'm not going to have enough. Well, I'm denying the fact that the next moment of my life is ripe with possibility. And or the next day that let's say it's 6 a.m. I'm waking up and I wake up in anxiety. Well, if I believe in that anxiety, I'm in a sense negating the entire day ahead of me that magic and wonderful things can't unfold for me. Whereas in reality, I believe the way life actually is that every brand new moment is a second chance. It's a brand new start. And it's just, I got to be willing to tell myself that and accept the fact that every moment is a brand new start for infinite possibilities to unfold. And sometimes I say to myself, oh, give me a break, Tom. It's like you don't believe there's infinite possibilities. You think you're going to run out of money, or something like that. And but then I go, but that's so stupid to think that way, because then we'll run out of money. If I think that way, if I listen to any of the things that are giving me worry and anxiety, they're just dead end things. They're only going to make my life worse if they come true. And so I go, well, if I'm going to sit around and believe those things, they're going to come true. So my whole thing becomes, okay, what's a better feeling story I can tell myself? Can I tell myself that infinite possibilities exist? Can I tell myself that today something different is going to happen? That it's not just going to be a repeat of yesterday and the same problem that I've been carrying for 5 years, And, God, even if we've had a problem for a really long time that we're worried about, I feel like I've got to come up with the faith that it can change today, and then look for being in that vibration, being in the feeling of it changing. Do you get into the feeling of it?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, I was just realizing we were talking about how everything is alive, right? And how all matter is source energy that's been manifested through thought processes. So really, everything is just source energy and some sort of manifestation. And when I think about that more detail, I'm realizing there's actually a nice little meditation thing there, because if you notice the fact that all of this physical manifestation, it may be an illusion that has been created by thought process, but it's a wonderful illusion. If you focus on how wonderful that illusion is, this is an amazing place. I mean, this whole world is an amazing place. The fact that we have physical bodies and air to breathe and so forth, and that all of it came about through thought. Like, wow, that's pretty cool stuff. So that's a nice place to start with appreciation, is what I'm saying. Why not, if you're getting stuck on everything else, why not just go back to, this is an amazing place? Sort of a metaphor, talking about computers. Very often, if you're good at computers, you tend to get people asking you for help with computers, which can be a little frustrating. But but you want to help because they're more frustrated than you are. So you want to help ease the angst, so to speak. And as you're working with them, one thought that often comes to my mind, particularly when they're feeling very frustrated, and that usually is most when they're trying to explain what the problem is and they don't have the technical words to explain it. So, well, it's just the thing doesn't work properly, and they get all in shape and so forth, Well, when that happens, one of my favorite stories to tell them back to is, it's so easy in these situations to get very frustrated by why isn't the computer doing what I want it to do, when we forget that the amazing thing isn't that the computer isn't working. The amazing thing is that the computer works at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. You have these components that are basically made up of silicon and plastics and metal put together, and they turn into a computer. That's insanely amazing. But we forget about that. All we worry about is, why doesn't the email work?
Yeah.
So there's a metaphor for how computers can actually be, a description of how we're looking at the overall world situation, the overall physical world situation. Are we looking at the frustration of it? Why isn't it this particular thing working out? Or, wow, this is an amazing place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like that thing I was talking about last week or the week before about how the body consists of 70 trillion cells.
Yeah.
And then the word trillion nobody can comprehend. And then the fact that every few seconds another 25 trillion new cells are created, and every cell performs up to 6 trillion functions per second. And that alone, just like the human body, just from that perspective, it just puts me into a whole other zone, because it's like, well, then I'm living in some kind of a magic hologram. This is like way beyond magic. This is something that's incomprehensible. It's so amazing what's happening here. And Abraham said that before we come here, the reason we want to be here is because of the fact that it is this realm, where you get to play in the hologram of something that seems so real that you can literally either get devastated by it or you can be in ecstasy. You have that option when you come here. I mean, it must be a little, I think it seems like it's frightening to think that you could be devastated, but I think maybe ultimately everything always works out, and that's what's the funny little crux of it, that even if you die, in a terrible place, everything's going to be fine. At least that's what Abraham says, and I have come to accept that. I totally believe that somehow this whole universe is created with good intention. There's actually a benevolent and benign force behind everything, and a lot of people don't believe that. And I don't expect anybody to just believe that, but it's helped my life tremendously to accept that fact that maybe it's designed to work beautifully.
Oh, I think it is. And I think that even more importantly, it does work beautifully. That's what the point of my metaphor was, reminding ourselves, just because there are some things that aren't working out right doesn't mean most of it isn't working great, because most of it is working great. Most of it works fantastically. It's just, we just have to be willing to notice it. When we notice that stuff's working great, that's the nice part. When you're noticing the good stuff, you can't focus on the bad stuff. Our human minds are incapable of focusing on both good and bad at the same time. We can focus on one, we can focus on the other, we can even multitask and shift back and forth. But at any given instant, when we're focusing on one, we can't focus on the other. So that's actually a valuable tool. It means that if we are stuck in something, and we know we're in a bad place, we want to get out of it, all we have to do is focus on good stuff. And instantly, we're no longer focusing on the bad stuff. Does that mean we don't have to pull back to the other side? Of course not. The pull's still there. But every instant that we succeed in focusing on how great stuff is an instant that we're not focusing on the other. And that's why it's so good to just keep going back to it, because you can't do both at the same time. It's actually a very valuable thing.
Yeah. That's really valuable. I was just reading that from Abraham recently, and that's so true. I love what you said about the computer, how 99.999% of the time it's working right when you consider how many components have to be in agreement for that computer to work properly, or for your cell phone when I've been on an airplane flight, you're up there how many thousands of feet in the air, 30,000 feet or something, and you realize that it's instant death if anything goes wrong. And then how many planes go up in the air every day throughout the world? I'm sure it's well over 200,000 a day. I don't know. That might be a low number. But it's a lot.
Yeah, what we do is that it's the safest way of travel. It's the safest form of travel, even though people so afraid about a crash. The fact is, there is no safer form of travel than airlines.
And you just look around a plane. Just watch out the window when the flaps are going up and down and things, and you realize, oh my God, look at all the different components inside that wing. That every one of those has to be working perfectly.
And they do.
This plane to fly.
They work. I mean, the fact that computers work at all is just an amazing miracle. And I've never lost that. I remember it from back when I was in high school in the 70s, when it was even before the PC era had arrived. And the only computer you could work with was on a data type that was connected to a larger mainframe somewhere. And even that part, I'm thinking, wow, that's just miraculous. That's just incredible that can happen. I've never lost that, fortunately. I'll tell you another story, too, that if the first one doesn't work, if people, if they aren't broken away from their frustrations at the computer by reminding them that the amazing thing is that the computer works at all, the other story I like to tell them that kind of shakes them off of their insistence on being stuck is to tell them about the story of the person who called in to customer service about their new computer because the new computer wasn't working. And the customer service person starts walking through their checklist. Okay, so when did this start to happen? Well, it started happening about 30 minutes ago. And tell me what happened. Well, the whole screen went blank. Everything went blank. And I can't get it to respond. I move the mouse, nothing happens. The power button isn't doing anything. And goes through a few more questions and finally asked, so was there anything going on at the time when you were doing this? Well, yeah, the power went out.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And the punchline of the joke is that at that point, the customer service person says, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the computer, put it in a box, the same box that we sent it to you, and then ship it back to us with a note that says, I'm too stupid to own a computer. So we kind of shake you loose from your frustration, like, oh, well, I'm kind of making a big deal out of nothing.
Yeah. That's good. So, Walt, I got some problems with my cell phone and whatnot. I'm going to get you right here on the phone and have you troubleshoot some of my problems.
There are no problems.
It's funny. I go into the Apple store and they always figure it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are always solutions. One way or another, there's always a solution. The hardest part is letting go of the problem. So we just have to let go of the problems. And
I guess that's the way it is with everything we worry and are fearful about. One way or another, there's something that can work out. It's got to be really hard when you have a disease that you just can't get on top of. I know some of my clients go through that, and I've gone through it myself, and yet there always is a way to continue to stay in the game of looking at what the possibilities are. Or if the possibilities just seem impossible, some people end up leaving. They end up leaving their body.
Sure.
And it's a challenging arena. It's an arena where I wouldn't want to tell somebody who was suffering from some really difficult illness that, oh, it's all in your mind and you can just change your mind. Abraham said that's true, ultimately, that everything is somehow stemming from our, somehow stemming from thoughts, one way or the other. But I just tell clients all the time, don't ever make yourself wrong for anything that's going on in your life. Mm-hmm. No matter how depressed you feel or how sick you feel or how broke you feel or how messed up you feel in your relationship, you got to start by being in a place of self-love, a place of complete forgiveness of yourself that, don't make yourself wrong for the thoughts that you're having or for the way the situations are working out, because that vibration will not allow things to change. If we always feel, it's just like piling on, feel worse than we were already feeling if we start blaming ourselves for our situation that we're in. But we can begin to look for something we can do, like the thing of following our breath, or the thing of starting to write things that we do appreciate about our lives. Starting to tell a little bit better feeling story, like what would be anything that would feel better than the situation that we're in. How can we go general and just look for something that we enjoy? Can we just turn on the television and forget our worries by watching something we like to watch on television? All that's okay,
Oh, absolutely, it's okay.
Yeah.
In fact, it's good practice.
Yeah.
I'm reminded also of a conversation I had with an early co-host, my sister-in-law, Yona, who I think I mentioned to you is a PhD candidate, and still trying to figure out exactly which avenue of science research she wants to make her degree. But the point is, this is about 2.5 years ago, something like that. She was telling me how the human body is incredibly agile when it comes to healing itself. And the way she explained it to me is one that I've always remembered, and I try to use this whenever I'm confronted by somebody who has a health issue, and that health issue is a particularly bad one. I try to encourage them to follow this little modality. What she said is that researchers are able now, with all the instruments and technologies that are available to them, they can actually trace from the moment that you experience an emotion in your brain, they can trace it through the body, through the particular systems that go down to wherever there is a site of disease or injury or some kind of malness going on, whatever it might be. And then that signal leads to a directive that says, at that site, start healing. And you can especially test it, or she told me that you can test it by inducing emotions in somebody and then tracing down to see what's happening. And whenever they induce a positive emotion, particularly something associated with happiness or laughter or joy or something like that, it sends a very powerful signal that really starts to kick the healing into high gear in wherever the injured or diseased place is. But conversely, and it always does it through the neurotransmitters and the hormones, the feel-good neurotransmitters. But conversely, if you have a sad feeling of some kind or a depressed feeling or something that is deeply negative, it sends another kind of signal using a different kind of neurotransmitter, this time usually cortisol, the flight or fight syndrome transmitter. And this one says, start dying. It actually instructs the cells at the site of the disease or of the injury or whatever it is to start dying off.
Wow.
And what's really amazing is the entire cycle takes about 90 seconds to complete. So from the moment that your brain experiences the emotion and then sends out the neurotransmitters to the point where the transmitters start actually doing stuff is 90 seconds. Wow. And when I heard about that, I said to myself, that's really quick. I mean, that's when, especially if you're feeling sick, that's knowing that is happening that quickly is reassuring, And then the other part that goes along with it is one of the strongest ways to kick off the healing is through laughter. That's what Norman Cousins discovered, for instance, when he created himself for cancer and just laughed himself to health by watching Marx Brothers and Charlie Chaplin movies. And other people have done very similar things. So I like to advise people, if you're sick, especially if you've got a dread disease of some kind, spend as much time as you can every day laughing. And it actually does turn out to be important. It isn't about just feeling that something is funny. It isn't enough finding it funny. Your body actually has to physically go through the motions of laughing. Because when you're laughing, it's like an accelerant, apparently. Laughter sends huge amounts of neurotransmitter. Finding something funny sends little tiny bits of neurotransmitter. So it's like when you laugh, you send a huge signal, heal, 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 to the part of the body that needs healing. So really the best thing you can do is find things to laugh at, which is hard. When you're not feeling good, that's hard to do. But it's a good time to involve your family members. Say, look, I need to laugh as much as I can. Help me laugh.
Yeah.
Help me find things to be funny. You know, show me funny movies. Put on funny comedians to watch or listen to. You know, just do anything that's funny so I can laugh at it. The other thing that I found too is when you're first doing this and you're feeling really miserable, it's often hard to get physical laughter going. So you have to kind of force it a little bit at first. In other words, you get to a point like you're listening to a comedian, and you get to the point where you know the comedian just said something that was really funny. You just don't feel like laughing right now. Make yourself laugh at it anyway. Get the laughter momentum going. Because after a while, it gets easier and easier, and all of a sudden now you're laughing, probably a belly laugh for the first time in a long time, especially if you've been sick.
Yeah. You know, I live in Boulder, Colorado, which is, you know, known as it's alternative spirituality and things like that. And there's tons of yoga studios in town, just a ton of them. And one of the modalities they have here is laughter yoga.
Oh, right. We talked about that, yeah.
You literally go to classes where, you know, everybody gets into that faking and laughing and then making it real. I'm lucky because all I have to do is pass a mirror and I can start cracking up because, you know, such a...
You're doing well at that. You can laugh at it. That's good.
Yeah. No, seriously though, I'm dating now, and I'm really looking when I look at a woman's profile on you know, the dating sites. I really look closely to see whether they say that they love laughter and that they're a comedian. You know, because a lot of women will put, "I'm just a comedian," you know, and I go, "Yeah, okay, I want to go out with her," because I really want to be with somebody in my life now as a partner who's just going to crack me up all the time, you know, and I'm going to crack them up because we definitely like to laugh. And I'm considered sort of a comedian by my friends. You wouldn't know it seeing me on this show, but it can be.
You just got to release your inner comedian.
Yeah. I actually want to bring more of that alive, which is why I got into comedy improv.
Oh, really?
And I took 24 classes in it last year, and I did 4 performances, and it's just an amazing way to get me to just immediately walk out on stage and have to look at any situation that's created with me and the other person and see what's funny about this. You know, what can we look at here that's funny, and then, you know, it goes in that direction, and it made me start to look at my life that way a lot more. Like every single thing I'm doing is a situation comedy. Essentially, I could find humor in it, you know, especially when I'm with other friends and stuff. You know, what I try to, you know, sometimes I just act out a scene with, you know, when I'm with friends, and they don't know that I'm exactly doing that, but then they start realizing, oh, Tom's doing his gig again, you know. Yeah, right. he's trying to be funny.
We feel sorry for him.
Yeah, they feel sorry for me.
That's great, though. I mean, having what did you say, 24 lessons in the course or something like that? So you had 24 opportunities to learn. 24 sessions
and learn to do comedy improv.
And that probably meant that you were laughing every single session. So you had 24 laughter sessions. That's pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah. It was great. Yeah, it was wonderful. And then when you get on the stage live, it's really trippy because it's, you know, the pressure's on and you're in front of a live audience. Those weren't as fun for me.
No,
but they were okay, you know.
Because that's where you're trying to get over the cortisol of fight or flight. When you're on the stage, you're terrified, like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, it's like you want to perform at that time, and it's the last. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to perform. You want to just keep having fun.
Right.
You know, and that's what we got to do on the stage of life. You know, we got to keep having fun. You know, look at how can this be fun? How can this be fun? That's what I'm asking myself now all the time. What can I do that's actually fun for me that I would like to do? You know.
That's really good. Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do here on LOA Today. We want to have a lot of fun, and in fact, we want to encourage listeners to continue to have fun. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to the podcast. Go to loatoday.net. That's the easy way. Or if you're on a smartphone on your iPhone, you can also do it through the iTunes store or even on the podcast software. You just go to the podcast software and just do a search on LOA Today. We'll pop right up. And if you're on an Android phone, you can do the same thing. Just go to Google Play instead of iTunes store, because obviously that's the Android equivalent. Just go to Google Play, search on LOA Today, and there we are. And Tom, before we leave, how can people reach you if they're interested in talking to you to get a little private coaching? Because that's often a good way to get that laughter cycle going.
Yeah, I offer a free session, a free 1-hour session to anybody who would like it to talk about anything that's up for them in their life. And they can go to my website, which is youarejoy.com. That's the 3 words, youarejoy.com. And there's a page on there that offers a free discovery session to discover, whether or not my coaching could help you, and if you might like to work with me further, we can set that up also. But it's a free 1 hour.
Outstanding. Tom, it's been a pleasure as usual.
Thank you, Walt. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and looking forward to the next time.
Yep, we'll see you next time here on LOA. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.